Hello there, and welcome to You Don't Know Her, the mindset podcast, all about creating the best future for yourself, one by design, not by default. And I'm absolutely delighted to announce today's guest, a very talented musician who, if you don't know Ali McErlaine, I'm sure you'll know his music. He's a very talented guitarist from the band Texas that he founded and joined as a teenager. And he's had a fantastic career since currently with Red Sky July as well. So before we kind of dive into to your success and your music career, I'd really be interested, Ali, in learning a bit about that pre music for you as well. You know, growing up, sort of inspirations, you know, your path taken and kind of getting into music. Would you be able to talk a little bit about that with us?
Yeah, sure. Look, thanks for having me on.
Very welcome.
Great. Um, yeah, I think my dad was really into music, so there was always guitars in the house when I was growing up, and he had been in a he was really into Bob Dylan, so there was a lot of folk kind of music played, and my mum loved the Beatles and the Beach Boys, and there was a lot of vinyl Beach Boys records, and my dad actually had a really good hi-fi. So he had out of all my he never had anything else good, but he had a good hi-fi. So out of all my friends, I always had the best kind of hi-fi in my house. So we used to just listen to records all the time, yeah, my early days was the first thing I remember liking was I think it was the Carpenters was the
Mm.
first that really got to me because it was Calling Occupants of Interplanetary Craft. And I was really
Okay.
into science fiction, so I really loved that song. And
Yeah.
that was the first song I really sort of connected with. I
Mm.
remember connecting with.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
on
It's
mo-
it's fantastic music, Carpenters. I actually went to a tribute festival earlier this year, and there was a Karen Carpenter tribute act,
Oh,
and
brilliant.
going into it, I probably not studied the Carpenters as much, but you're just listening to it, it's hit after hit, and it's a fantastic song, and it's unbelievable because she had such a phenomenal career.
Yeah.
Obviously, a tragic end for her, but
But if my computer's just going into like a red screen.
that's
Even redder.
That's absolutely fine as long as we can still see and hear you. But I wanted to mention the Beatles you mentioned there as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I think they're a band that are still even now shaping music, and I think they were a band that were way ahead of their time. For me personally, looking at kind of the systems they employed, I recently watched the documentary the Beatles had on Disney Plus, and
Yeah,
looking at Paul McCartney kind of coming in the studio with an idea for Get Back and
I
seeing.
watched that.
Yeah, did you see it? Is that something that provided inspiration for you in your early stage as well, kind of their genius or other bands of
Well,
that kind of style?
to be honest, I was like my mum had seen the Beatles. She saw the Beatles when she was young in the 60s in Glasgow.
Mm.
And to me, they were always like my mum's band.
Mm.
So it's like at first, I only really get into the Beatles later. No, I mean, when I say later, I mean
Mm.
when I was 20, 21, when I was a teenager, I wasn't really into that so much.
Mm. Yeah.
But I did watch that documentary.
The Get Back, yeah.
I was like really cringing because they had all these like, obviously they're not vintage at the time, but now all these like
Mhm.
Gibson and Fender guitars are like worth a fortune, and they'll
Yeah.
just leave them all lying against drum kits and on the floor.
Yeah, I know.
But
It was it was yeah, it
I
was
found it
very.
really interesting. That was really interesting to me because I was looking at the mics they were miking up stuff with and the equipment they were using in the studio, and it was
Mm.
all very interesting that way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, the size of the band, I don't think they're worried about damaging a bit of equipment up there or things like that. But no, it's
I
yeah,
think but it does get like that when you're working and you're like creating like that. All of that goes out the window because you're so intensely
mm,
concentrating on what you're doing. It's like you just throw guitars down.
yeah,
No, I don't mean throw them down like violently, but
yeah,
you leave them leaning against stuff and then they fall over and stuff. You
yeah,
know.
yeah. It was really inspirational for me to watch the genius of all of them together. I mean, from what I've seen of it, George Harrison in his own right is, I think, one of the greats as well, and he's written amazing songs like Something and Fantastic. I think he wrote Here Comes the Sun as well, maybe. Or but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So do you think that plays a part for someone like him, probably under the wing of, John Lennon and Paul McCartney as these two phenomenal songwriters? Do you think that's helped elevate him to that next level and think, okay, Or do you
It's
think
just
he's
really,
already had that?
it's really, really strange, the Beatles, because like they did, all of their albums were made in a like 7 year period. So
Yeah,
1963 to 1970, and they went from Help to like the White Album to like
yeah,
Sgt. Pepper, and
yeah.
I mean, they were still. I think George Harrison was like 27 when the Beatles split up,
Oh,
or
really?
even yeah. I mean, they were so young
Yeah,
when they made all those records, you know.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
I was actually reading an article. I think it's by it's a guy called Ted Joya who's like a jazz journalist, and
Mm,
I was reading this article and it was about how most people make their best music in their 20s.
mm.
Even
Yeah,
though as you get older, you can still learn and you think you're getting better, but you
mm,
make your most kind of essential music in your 20s.
yeah,
And I had a whole list of like from like Pink Floyd to the Beatles to like Kate Bush to
yeah,
I've, even like people like Bach in the classical
yeah,
and Davis, people like that, they all made their most essential albums before they were 30,
yeah. It.
which I found was quite interesting because I kind of thought I'm actually feel like I can play better now, but
Mm.
then it doesn't really mean I'm making more essential records.
Yeah, it is. It's just because with everything else in life, really, you think you get better as you get older, don't you? And you gain more wisdom. But there are so many acts like that. I mean, there's the big thing in music of the 27 Club, isn't there? Of artists that sadly passed away at the age of 27. There's people like Kurt Cobain and Amy Winehouse as well. And I know
Jimmy,
Otis, sorry,
Jimi
Jimi
Hendrix,
Hendrix. Yeah,
he did all of that stuff when he wasn't even 27, and he had
yeah.
done all the records, the classic, amazing records. I
Yeah,
mean,
so there must be something to it, and I think it is. Yeah, it's sad to see the artists that are that gifted and maybe hit such heights at such a young age that they maybe don't know how to deal with it all. And we've recently had the sad news with Liam Payne as well, from One Direction. So yeah, I mean, from your side, because you were 18, weren't you, when Texas were founded? How quickly did Texas become the international band it was, and how did that affect you as a young up and coming artist at that time?
we had a kind of weird kind of ups and down thing because like the first when I first joined I was like 17
Hmm.
and they were already signed. They already had a record deal before I joined.
Okay.
So because Johnny had been in a band, Johnny the bass player
Hmm.
had been in a band called Hipsway,
Oh.
Scottish band.
Hmm.
So he, when they split up, he still had his record contract.
Hmm.
So with Mercury, so
Hmm.
they sort of said to him, "You can form a new band,
Hmm.
and we'll just keep your contract." So Texas was always signed through Johnny's contract.
Yeah.
Great
Oh.
records. So what he did was he went around Glasgow and he wanted to find a really good singer and a sort of rock guitarist
Hmm.
because it was at the time of like when Prince had done Purple Rain
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
Michael Jackson had beat it with the Eddie Van Halen guitar solo.
Yeah.
That kind of
Good
the
time.
rock pop thing was like a kind of a new thing that was. So they wanted to find like a because I was in a heavy rock band.
Hmm.
I was like in a metal band at the time when
Hmm.
I was only like 16, 17.
Hmm.
So they kind of they put out a thing and they asked around in Glasgow like who's good metal guitarist
Hmm.
that can play that type of stuff and I could. So that's how I initially got the job in Texas.
Yeah.
But then they said to me, "Oh, can you play slide guitar?" I was like, "Yeah, of course I can." But I'd never played slide guitar in my life.
You just
Just
quickly learn.
I just bluffed it.
Yeah, you got to fake it to make it sometimes, haven't you?
Yeah, but then we went into a kind of recording, and I'd never been in a studio like proper, so it was really a big deal for me. It was like really hard
Hmm.
because I was used to just doing whatever I wanted and playing what I wanted.
Hmm.
But then when you get into a studio in a professional situation,
Hmm.
with
Yeah.
record companies involved and money getting spent, it
Yeah.
gets it's really quite a lot of pressure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was kind of very young at the time to be doing that. And
Hmm.
at the time there was no computers, so nowadays you can go and you can play something and you can just fly it in all over the track. But then it was all done on tape, so you
Hmm.
had to get it perfect in
Hmm.
the recording. We were recording live, so it
Hmm.
was much harder to do back then.
Yeah. They
But
can,
there's more time to do it. That was the thing. There was a lot more time involved. Now
yeah.
they're just done on the fly. It's like done instantly, so you don't have any time. You play records, but you just play as you make it up, and then you just record it. Whereas then you would rehearse for 2 weeks before
Yeah.
you record. So it's different.
Yeah, that was something I heard from the Beatles actually. I think they talked about, or Paul McCartney did talk about it on a interview he was on, that they'd sort of learn the whole album and they just do the whole album
Yeah.
in one take, and that's all they could kind of afford in the early days to have that studio time. So was
Yeah.
that I mean, obviously that was earlier, that was back in the 60s. So how had that changed by the time that you were in Texas? Was it kind of a bit more, you can kind
Yeah.
of do the song in its take and kind of work on that?
But yeah, I mean, there was more tracks because I think the Beatles only had like 4 or 8 tracks,
Mm,
but they had like unlimited tracks, and uh, we had things like click tracks. We did have that, so the
mm.
drummer, yeah,
Yeah.
and and but I mean, it wasn't really that much different from what they did in how they did it in the 60s, really, because
Really?
you still have to go and play to a drummer, get the drum track down, and then maybe record the bass and the rhythm guitar and drums all live,
Mm.
and then sort of build it from there. But I mean, the main difference was we had more tracks to play with, and also 20 years more experience of people working like that.
Mm.
Whereas the Beatles were doing that, they were kind of making it, they were sort of inventing it all.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it was the American studios invented it first, but they were still sort of breaking new ground with recording with George Martin and all that.
Yeah.
Um, um, I wouldn't say we were breaking the ground, but it was no ground for us at the time. But
Yeah. Yeah, it was yeah, like I say, it's come on so much since then. I mean, I think that one of the most talented pop artists at the moment is Charlie Puth, and he's someone that can take, well, for example, his hit song Light Switch was someone online just saying, "Can you make a song out of a light switch sound?" And he just recorded that little, and then from that he built the whole song around it, and then it was a
yeah,
massive hit for him. So and that was all primarily, I think, done in his bedroom, or done in his home
yeah.
studio, just himself, kind of with his keyboard, and he's got perfect pitch as well, and that'll help as well, and things like that. But
But the same with Billie Eilish, because she was
mm,
recorded her first album in the bedroom, didn't she, on her laptop. So
yeah,
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 you don't really need big studios anymore. You can do it
mm,
on your laptop. But the problem with that is you can't really record like a full band with a drummer in a
yeah,
proper room like that. So
yeah,
we use. I'm not saying it's better. I'm not saying it was better. Just it's just different. It's just changed. It's
yeah,
actually made it much more accessible for
mm,
people to make music.
mm,
Whereas before you had to get a record deal
mm.
to to pay for the studio, and it was expensive. I mean, first Texas record probably cost, I don't know, nearly
Oh, really?
£1 million to record.
Oh, wow.
With all the tries, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the exact figure, but it was a lot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Whereas now, like you say, yeah, I just watched. I don't know if you're familiar with this. He's a comedian musician, Bo Burnham. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he had a
So,
Netflix special during the COVID pandemic, which was very very powerful, and it won plenty of awards and nominated for awards. And he recorded all that during COVID on his own. He sort of, yeah, and there's footage of him in his bedroom, sort of tinkering around and doing things. And from that, after COVID, he started performing some of it live with Phoebe Bridgers, I think, as well. And yeah,
yeah.
so yeah, so it's incredible what it's an advantage in that way that you can create that thing as well now that that's the option for more people, like
Yeah,
you say.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I just think but I mean, it was much less. There was much less distraction in those days as well.
Mm,
Because now, like, if you wanted to hear a record, you had to like save up the money,
mm,
go and buy the record,
mm.
go to town, get it, bring it home, put it on,
Yeah.
listen to it, and it was a big deal. And you would give it, you would if I bought an album, I
Mm,
wouldn't just listen to like 10 seconds of a song. I
mm,
would really listen to it, and I'd want to get, because I spent a lot of money on it, so I'd
mm,
want to hear every song and read the lyrics and read all the things on, and it was a precious thing.
mm.
Whereas now it's sort of disposable because you can just listen to any music anytime for free. So
Yeah.
so it's got less importance it's less precious to people, I think, than it was to people. I don't know about you, look, but
Mm.
my generation, it was very precious. Music was like a something you had to really go out your way to find the find things, and
Yeah, that, that
when
that yeah, I completely agree. I think I'd read recently that the average skip time on Spotify is something like 4 seconds.
yeah,
People don't give it. And for me personally, I think probably possibly one of my favorite songs of all time, if not favorite, is Billy Joel, "Scenes from an Italian Restaurant," which is obviously an epic 7 minute song. But you do wonder if it came out now, would it have the chance to be what
yeah,
it was? Because people might not give the intro enough time to get the
yeah.
song going. So,
I have to say, like, I went to see Billy Joel like
oh,
recently. He was
yeah.
doing. My friend had tickets, and he offered me a ticket to go, and he was only playing one show
Mm,
in Europe this year, and it was at Cardiff in the summer at the Cardiff Arms Park or the stadium, whatever it was called, and
mm,
it was one of the best concerts I've ever
really.
been to.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I kind of like some of these songs.
Mm,
I'll just because I'll just go with my friend and
mm,
just he wants to go. And
yeah.
actually, I would say it was my top three concerts I've ever seen.
Really.
It
Yeah.
was unbelievable,
Um,
really.
yeah. I'm guessing you heard a lot of songs there that you went, oh, I forgot Billy Joel
Yeah,
did this for
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
River of Dreams and everything, and Captain Jack and everything in between. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
but it was emotional. That was the thing. It was all the people there because I didn't realize at the time, but he's only doing one show in Europe this year. He's
Already.
got, and it was at Cardiff. I don't even know why he was playing there, but it was a
Oh.
kind of, and it was a beautiful summer day in Cardiff,
Mm,
and everybody was arriving in really good spirits. It
mm,
was it was just amazing atmosphere,
yeah.
and the girl in front of me who was like quite young, she was singing every song with her dad, and
Mm,
I was just, and everybody was absolutely. I've never seen people enjoy music so much.
yeah.
I mean, I've
Yeah.
seen people react at concerts and sing along and all that, but they were actually, you could tell people the music meant something to
Mm,
them. And it
yeah.
was really, really emotional. It was really amazing.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what music does. I think it has the power to bring people together and connect. And I think when you get these big stadiums full of Billy Joel fans, it's just atmospheric. I mean, I saw in Sunderland a few months ago, I saw Bruce Springsteen
Right.
live, which is the first chance I've had to see him live, and
Yeah, he's
and
amazing.
unbelievable. And to have him there, and that the vast majority of people there are just Bruce Springsteen, mega fans, and everyone knows all the words, and you don't know what you're going to get with his set list as well because he's got such a wide range of music to pick from, hasn't he?
Yeah, amazing. I mean, I saw Bruce Springsteen quite a few years ago.
Mm,
I think I saw him at Sheffield,
mm,
and it was again, it was one of my favourite ever gigs I've ever seen.
mm.
But I have to say, Billy Joel was on a par with it.
Really? Yeah,
Really, I didn't expect it to be. I really didn't.
yeah, yeah.
But
I do.
yeah,
Yeah,
Springsteen is amazing.
yeah.
So,
I do love again at the same tribute thing. I was at Billy Joel was the headline act on one of the nights of Billy Joel tribute, and yeah, really got the crowd going. Everyone was loving it. But yeah, yeah, yeah. So much inspiration to draw from. So, have you got any other gigs coming up that you're looking forward to? Anything booked
I'm
at the
actually going to
moment?
see. I'm going to a gig on Saturday. I'm going to see Pat Metheny, the
Not,
jazz guitarist.
I've not heard of that. No.
He's one of the all-time most famous jazz guitar players.
Oh, really?
Played
Okay.
in Joni Mitchell's band in the 70s.
Oh,
Played on songs like Amelia and stuff like that, Joni Mitchell. And he's
right.
playing at the Barbican in London. And I'm going with my friend. My friend and me are going because he loves jazz. I love jazz music. And he's one of my, Pat Metheny is one of my kind of people I would just like. I mean, he's a complete legend. So I just can't wait to see it.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
but
Yeah, it's got to be inspiration for you from coming from a guitarist point of view as well to
but even most of the jazz I listen to is not even guitar based. It's like
mm,
Charlie Parker and Miles Davis and John Coltrane. It's like
mm,
I actually find jazz guitar. I would rather listen to like a sax or a trumpet because it's thicker sound. Whereas
mm,
a jazz guitar can sound quite thin and small.
mm.
So there's only a few people that can make it sound really
Yeah,
well. There's not really. There's lots of people, but there's some people that make it have a really big sound. Like Pat Metheny's got a really big fat sound. And
Yeah,
lots so it's hard to explain,
yeah,
but like Django Reinhardt, for instance, has got a very thin sound. So it's so old. It was a really early recording, so it sounds quite thin. So for me, that's not really what I listen to. I prefer John Coltrane or Miles Davis and the sort of bebop stuff.
yeah,
And that's why I like Billy Wales. Because he comes from a jazz background and his band were all sort of jazz guys, and there was a lot of that kind of New York jazz kind of influence in the music, which I love.
hmm,
So
yeah. Oh,
anyway,
amazing.
sorry, I don't want to go on the jazz.
No, no, I love to hear it. It's one of those genres I've not had really much exposure to myself personally, but I'm always open to new things. I've got such a wide musical palette. I feel like any sort of successful music has to connect and have that emotion, and as long as there's meaning and story behind it, which obviously jazz has got a massive history of that, hasn't it?
Yeah, we just check out "I Love Supreme" by John Coltrane. That
Supreme.
album.
Yeah, yeah,
Just put it on and have a listen to it. It's
yeah.
awesome.
Just sit and enjoy. Yeah.
For me, like as you know, when we're talking about sort of writing pop songs and all that, and it's quite sort of a bit formulaic.
Hmm.
Whereas jazz is really freeform and improvised,
Hmm.
and that's what I like doing on guitar most is like improvising and making things up. And I don't really like playing the same thing twice or playing things to, but you sort of have to. But if I had them my own way, I would just be jamming all the time.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of jazz is like because it's never the same twice.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's always a unique performance, you know.
Yeah, there's some songs like that. My friend recently sent me a song. I forgot the band, but he said listen to this song, but he said listen to it twice because I listened to it twice and I didn't like it the first time. And I think it was a band called Sports Team actually. I think it was a song called Subaru, but I was the exact same as him. I was like, oh, okay, this is a bit weird. And then the second time I was like, oh yeah, this is cool.
Well, that's exactly what I was saying about how when we used to buy albums and we'd actually give them a chance.
Mm,
Whereas now you don't, you just listen to 10 seconds of the song going, nah.
yeah, and like that, I'll
Then
just
I would hate for it, you would give it a chance, you'd listen to it. And then some songs you have to listen to quite a few times before they make sense to you.
yeah.
You know?
Mm.
Especially, yeah, so do you know what I mean? So
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's quite incredible. Well, we've already ran over time, Ali, but I've loved speaking. Can we, if we can kind of wrap this one up and we'll keep talking and get a part two done as well. But yeah, so just from your own side again, we've not even had a chance to delve into it, but Red Sky July is your current project, isn't it? Is that the current sort of what you're on with the moment? You got any new music coming out
yeah,
or anything like that?
we've just released we've got a new album coming out in the new year. We've released two singles from it so far,
Amazing.
and we've been playing a few gigs in London. We've got a gig in a couple of weeks in London, Camden, and then we're putting together a tour next year for like I think we're putting in places like Stoke and Manchester and
Hmm.
probably up your way
Yeah.
as well.
Oh, amazing. Oh,
Definitely down up in Scotland as well. So we're,
yeah.
we're putting in a lot of gigs like kind of February, March time for
Yeah.
that next year.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye
Um,
out. I'll definitely be there. I've just been up to Glasgow a couple of years ago to go and see Green Day actually when they came over.
but,
So so I'll definitely come check you out. But brilliant. Thank you for your time, Ali. We'll pick this back up. But yeah, thank you very much for now. Take
cheers,
care.
thanks, thanks, like, cheers.
Cheers.